Hello everyone and welcome to this new video in which I will talk about this book. This book which is called Sketching Drawing Techniques for Product Designers, and the reason I want to talk about this book is because it's for me the book that made me understand how to sketch, and it's the book that sort of kicked off my creative path and that allow me today to be creative and very flexible with my ideas, because I'm able to really explore as much as I can, and I'm not limited by my sketching skills or modeling skills or anything. So that's somehow the objective of a designer, is that in the beginning of your career you struggle a bit because you don't really have time to do things well. So you may be creative, but you don't really have time to explore things very deep and push very far because you are somehow limited by your skills. As soon as you evolve and push and have a few years of experience, then you're not really limited by your skills anymore, and then your skills become a way to elevate your design. So for example, when I do things like this, it's not really the sketch which is interesting. The sketch is beautiful, but I'm not doing this just to do a cool sketch. I'm doing this because I care about the design and I want to make it nice. If you see this armrest, then you see that it's the simplification of the armrest, or the shape of this armrest, the ergonomic and how elegant it is, and how it flows with the rest of the seat, which makes it interesting. If you see the back of the seat, it's also the simplification of the product, which makes it interesting. In fact, the sketching by itself is not really. It's good if you want to do things for Instagram, but to be honest, for your client, you need to use sketching as a tool to elevate your design, or you need to use 3D modeling or rendering as a tool to elevate your design, not just a tool to do beautiful stuff. And so you see these beautiful sketches, but in fact it was not always like this. So before I bought this book, these are the sketches that I used to do. So when you see this, for example, there's no real understanding of the shadow, for example. You see I put some shadow here and then it disappears here because I didn't really know how to deal with shadows at that time. And that's when I bought this book, which I understood a lot of things, and especially I want to show you this page, because this for me is just made me realize how to sketch. The first thing that I realized was how to put a shadow, because when you see this sketch, you realize that this line is just a parallel to this line, and the one that comes to the back is just a parallel to this line here. So when you see this, then you realize that actually doing a shadow is very easy. From these sketches, which was like maybe okay, even some of you will think it's okay, I started to place shadows. And these shadows, let's take for example this thing. Every time I was doing sketches now, every time I'm doing sketches, I place the shadows because it sort of ground your product. And when I understood this from this book, I started to feel okay. It's like my sketches started to be more contrasted, more grounded, and then having a shadow on one side indicated to me where the shading has to be. So for example, if you know that the shadow is on the right, then you know that the shading will be toward the shadow. Same here, you see that this is on the right side, so the shading of the box will be on the side of the shadow. And this was for me the biggest thing that I realized, because from that I was now able to go from some sketches with no shadow, like this one, or with a poor understanding of how to place the shadow, to sketches which were a bit like this. So you see where the shadow is very helps to ground the product. So of course I'm not doing shadows everywhere. Like if you see this sketch, for example, there's no shadows. There's a lot of shading. There's a projected shadow, but there's no shadows, and it doesn't really matter. So it doesn't. I'm not saying that you need to put shadows everywhere. What I'm saying is that shadows help you ground the product, and it's always the same. When you saw me doing this tutorial on YouTube, then you saw that the way I place the shadow is exactly the same way. So I place like this line, and then up, just turn it in black. Here the same thing, you place this line, and then you turn it in black, and then that's your shadow. So you see that it's a very interesting thing to know, and this for me came from learning about this book. So now that we are here, I'm going to show you a bit more about this book and what's inside. So it's quite an old book, and to be fair, like when I bought it, it was like 10 years ago. There was no Instagram, so there was no real way to see cool sketches, so you had to buy books. But at the same time, I think that this is not only. I think Instagram is just like a sort of consume, like you just consume sketches. You know, you don't really learn how to do them. It's just like oh wow, and you put a like. It doesn't really mean much. When here you learn things. For example, the first section of this thing is about 2D. 2D is a very key point to create good sketches. If you see all my sketches, all I have these 2D things. I don't really have so many sketches with me here, but you see that even if I draw this quick stuff, then I always have the side views and the 2D views next to it. This is very important because it helps you to design better. And then you have different chapters. So first you learn how to place the shading on 2D. Then you learn how to do basic perspectives. Then you will learn how to simplify your shapes. So you go from complicated shapes to combination of small, simple shapes. Then you will learn how to do the shading. So here you learn how to do the shading, how you contrast things. Those who are part of the leManoosh course, this is one thing that I always emphasize. If your sketch doesn't pop out, it's because you don't have enough shading. You don't have like strong black and strong white. You will learn how to deal with ellipses and circular shapes. So I'm not saying that if you buy this book, then you will be able to do the sketches which I show you. There's of course a lot of practice and years of practice behind this. But I think that it's important to learn from these type of tools which are available. Okay, so you get the point. It's a cool book. It's a cool book. If you want to learn more, then you can find it on Amazon. I put the link on the books and gears page. So have a look at it, and then that's all. Thank you very much. See you. I hope that you at least learn a few things. Even if I don't sketch too much in this video, I hope that you learn a few things on how to improve your stuff. All right, thank you guys. See you later. See you. Goodbye. Cheers.